we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Make sure I started the webinar. Here we go. Welcome to the College Admissions Collaborative Highlighting Engineering and Technology College Fair. We are so excited to have you participating in this event. My name is Becca and I will be facilitating this event. We have some fantastic schools here with us today. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out the schedule on the website. This presentation is being recorded and will be available at strivescan.com/CACHET. I'd like to now turn it over to our first presenter, Becky, and thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. So hi, everyone. Welcome to the panel of Women in STEM. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we have some incredible panelists here today who are going to share a lot of their perspectives and their journey. And I am doing this very wrong. I should have hit present and not share. There we go. You'd think after so many months you'd be able to do this, but alas. So we have students from 5 different schools, again, sharing their perspective and their experience of what it's like being a woman in STEM as they have navigated college. So what we are going to do first, we are going to have each of our students introduce themselves. So I am going to call on each person, and if you could share your name, your pronouns, what class year you are, where you go to school, and maybe some things that you're involved in on campus. I think that would be a really great way to introduce yourselves to our audience. So up first, we have Olivia.
Hello, I'm Olivia Joe. I go to Olin College of Engineering. I'm a junior who's studying engineering with robotics. And on campus, I play water polo, I work in the machine shop and work on 3D printers, and I do some robotic tuna fish research.
Robotic tuna fish research, very fun. Okay, next we have Julia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Ruiz. I'm a second-year student at Syracuse University, and I'm studying computer science, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm also involved on the campus Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers.
Thanks, Julia. And next we have Oluchi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oluchi Ezekwena, and I go to Tufts University. I study biochemistry on the pre-med track, and I minor in French. On campus, I'm a part of the French Society, NSA, BSU, and I work in the chemistry labs on campus.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And next we have Shirley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shirley Love. I am a junior engineering student with a concentration in mechanical engineering and 2 minors in manufacturing engineering and physics. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, and a few things that I do on campus is that I'm on the e-board for a few clubs, one being the Society for Hispanic and Professional Engineers.
Thank you, Shirley. And last but not least, we have Bridget.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget. Thank you so much for joining us today. I go to Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I'm a senior studying biology and biotechnology on the pre-med track. On campus, I work in our admissions office. I'm the president of a Greek life organization, and I'm also an EMT on our campus as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. So now that all of you have had a chance to hear a little bit about each of our panelists, we really want this time to be for you to ask any and all questions that you have about studying STEM as a woman in college. So please feel free. At the bottom of your screen, you see the little Q&A chat bubbles. Drop your questions there. We also have some questions to kick things off and get ourselves started. So I think the first question, while our audience is thinking of things to ask, is for my panelists, how did you know that you wanted to study STEM? And we could potentially, if it's not too much pressure on Olivia Joe, we can go in the same order that we did introductions, if that is okay. I know like Bridget's like, yes, I get the most time to think. Olivia Joe, did you want to go first?
Sure. So just in my high school and middle school, I really knew I enjoyed science and math. and I did a lot of STEM related extracurriculars. And that really allowed me to see myself spending a lot of time in this space. I don't know if there was one specific instance, but I just really had a couple of wonderful teachers in grade school who really pushed me and supported me throughout my STEM classes, even though I was probably the only girl in the class.
Yeah. Julia.
For me, STEM kind of started as well in high school. I took a lot of different STEM AP courses and everything. And I always knew I was going to do, or I wanted to do forensic science at first. But what got me into computer science was I did this FBI teen academy, and they definitely put the emphasis on technology. And I never really saw that for myself, but since technology is so prevalent in our world now, I thought, okay, this is like a very good field to go in, and it's very intriguing. So that's how I got into computer science.
That sounds like a cool thing. FBI. Fun. Okay. Lucci.
Yeah, very similar to everyone else. Sorry to continue to be basic, but I also really enjoyed my science courses in high school. I think that's where it initially started. In high school, I really enjoyed biology and chemistry the most. And towards my senior year, I took a lot of extracurricular classes that allowed me to pursue more specific areas in those. And then when I came to Tufts, I was really torn between studying biology and chemistry. And then there was a biochemistry major, which put everything together, which it made everything very simple for me versus double majoring. But yeah, that's essentially how I got into STEM here.
Shirley, what would you like to share?
So unlike everyone else, my high school didn't really have any engineering classes or extracurricular activities. So I sort of came in blind, but I knew that I really liked working with my hands, and I had a very high interest in the maths and sciences. So that was what really led me to here.
Actually, yeah, similar to Shirley, I didn't have a lot of STEM classes at my high school. And I actually started as a lifeguard and then got my EMT certification. So I kind of knew I wanted to go into the health science field. So then I came to WPI and saw that there was a bunch of really strong women in the bio department. And I just went with that.
Thank you all so much for sharing. I'm wondering, would any of you like to share what has been your favorite STEM class so far that you've taken in college? And feel free just to raise your hand in the screen if you know one off the top of your head. Oluchi, yeah.
This is a very unpopular opinion, but I really, really, really liked organic chemistry here. I feel like a lot of people, I feel like for me, it was really fulfilling in the sense that I got to understand on a more molecular level how atoms move and interact, and that was really fun for me. Or I took organic chemistry also in high school, and I think that after taking that class in high school, I was like, okay, I know I want to study science in college. And then taking it in college and understanding it on another level was really cool for me. So that class I really, really liked. But I know other people don't always feel the same way, but I really liked organic chemistry.
I love it. Live your truth. That is a hot take, but I like it. I like it. Who else?
Can go. I actually took a circulatory and respiratory physiology lab last year. And it was really cool because we started out with actual sets of lungs and we were inflating them and deflating them. But then at the end of the course, we got handed kind of just a prompt that said, design an experiment that shows how the circulatory and respiratory system works. You and your friends design something and display a human mechanism. So we ended up just dunking our heads in ice baths and hooking ourselves up to EKGs and monitors. So it was cool to have that opportunity to kind of design our own path of what we wanted to display. And we also got to have fun with it and stick our limbs in ice baths, which was incredible.
I like that you leaned into the adjective incredible. I probably would have been using a different adjective, but I appreciate it. The earnestness. Okay, friends. Another question. I think that Bridget, what you were talking about leads in nicely to this, but even thinking outside of the classroom for those other projects that you might be working on, what are other opportunities that all of you have had to work outside of the classroom, especially in the realms of things like research, internships, and co-ops? Yeah, Shirley.
I actually just recently came back from my very first co-op. I had it over this past summer, and I worked for a small biotech company called Epicor Biosystems, and we worked for Gatorade and PepsiCo, manufacturing Gatorade sweat patches. So just really viewing the whole manufacturing process and seeing that it's more than just manufacturing, it's actually testing the product and doing some on-body testing rather than lab testing, and just really getting hands-on with what you're doing, and then having people like sell the product and actually wear it is just really rewarding.
Follow-up question for you, Shirley. What is a Gatorade sweat patch?
Yeah, so it's about a 2-inch patch that you wear on your forearm while working out, and it measures your sweat rate and chloride levels and just tells you how you should recuperate after working out. So it tells you how much water you should drink and how much salt you're losing while you're sweating.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing. Hooray. Who else would like to share? Julia.
All right, so similar to Shirley, I just had my first internship this past summer as well. And being a second year student, I was able to do the software engineering internship with Raytheon Technologies back where I'm from in Los Angeles. And there I was able to help with like updating software for the different radars they use for planes contracted by the government, and just kind of seeing the works behind it and how they deliver that product to the customer, whether that's like the Navy or the Air Force, was really cool. And just working in the labs was awesome. So yeah.
And Olivia Joe, I saw your hand go up too.
Yeah, this past summer, I was actually working at Nissan Research and Development, working on autonomous driving. So a lot of their cars now, you can press a button and it'll automatically steer you and slow you down up and down highways. So I was working on a lot of the control loops there and figuring out, how to make it work in all these crazy scenarios with weather, with construction. And it was really awesome to see the entire process behind that and what everything I'm like learning can be used in my job in the future.
So cool. And I'm curious, especially for our high school students tuning in tonight, thinking about how do you go about finding these opportunities? Like, what do the resources look like, since you are all from different institutions? What do those resources look like for you as you are finding these incredible opportunities to participate in? Oluchi.
Yeah, so I would say a lot of internship opportunities come from, at least at Tufts, it comes from lots of clubs. Whatever department that you end up studying in, we have a lot of department newsletters, and companies will contact professors and department heads saying that they need people to work certain positions for internships, but also once you're a senior, when you're about to graduate, they'll post like full-time job listings, which is really nice within your department. So it's like things that your professors know that you study, know that you'd be able to like have jobs and like perform well in these jobs, which is really nice. We also have a diversity STEM center at Tufts University. And so like if you're a woman or a person of color, there are things like that, and you're studying STEM at Tufts, there's like a building where you can go and you can meet with some of the advisors, and they can set you up with certain internships and interviews that will align with your interests, which has been really nice. There are career centers, there are a bunch of opportunities, but it's definitely something that you'd have to be proactive about. Like, people will send you as much information as they want, but at the end of the day, it's you that has to go out and get them.
So at WPI, we have an entire building called the CDC, or Career and Development Center, and they're entirely dedicated towards getting you those internships and jobs and opportunities. So you can do a drop-in mock interview whenever you want. Whenever they're open, they're always doing open office resume hours. So there's always someone there that can read over your resume and help you critique it. They hold career fairs, which are actually really fun. They have 400 companies come to the quad, and you can walk around and get a feel out for those. But again, it is about being proactive. You have to go into that building and drop into those open hours, and you have to go to the career services. But if you do, the opportunities are insurmountable.
Yeah, Julia.
I'd like to also just add on to that. Yeah, the career fairs at Syracuse University are very immense. They offer a lot of different companies to do one-on-one sessions with. We just had ours yesterday for the College of Engineering. And our career center is awesome because there's so many different advisors that we have, from like success advisors to career advisors to academic advisors, that just keep you on track with that and give you all these different opportunities that they hear of. And then also just within the organization in SHIP, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, they have their own career fairs and conventions where they have more employers where you can meet at. And that's where I found the Raytheon internship opportunity through recruiters there and everything.
Awesome, fun. One of my best friends works at Raytheon. She is a systems engineer. Her work is very confidential. I have no idea what she does, but it sounds pretty cool. She gets to go to Hawaii a lot to work on a boat. And I'm like, heck yeah, that is awesome. I'm also curious. I know that one of the questions that I get asked a lot as an admissions officer for folks thinking about STEM and engineering is how much might that conflict with an abroad experience? I'm like, looking at Olivia, I know that we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I'm curious for any of you as well, what is it like to potentially study abroad as someone majoring in STEM? Yeah, Bridget.
So I'm super passionate about this because studying abroad in STEM is actually built into WPI's curriculum. So it's factored in when you get accepted that you're taking a full 7 weeks off to be able to go and study abroad. And in that time studying abroad, you're not going to a university in another country and taking STEM classes. You're actually just completing one project in those 7 weeks. So you're collaborating with your peers that are from a bunch of different STEM backgrounds. I worked with a computer science major and engineering majors. We were supposed to go to Ecuador, but unfortunately COVID. But we did still get to complete our project. We zoomed into Ecuador. We had our sponsors from Ecuador sending us gifts. So that's built into our curriculum. So that's something that every student at WPI has the opportunity to do and still study STEM.
It's nice that they still sent you stuff from Ecuador. They're like, so sorry. Lucci, can I cold call on you to ask you about studying abroad?
Of course. Yeah, I would say it's definitely something that you can do. I think a lot of people sometimes think just because you're studying STEM, you can't study abroad, but that's most definitely something you can do. I think for me, because I was pre-med, it was like a little bit more difficult in the sense that like it's not something I could have just decided last minute. So I had to plan it out a little bit more. I'm also studying French, and so I'm going to Paris, so it like makes a little bit more sense that way. But even within the Paris programs and a lot of other programs that we have at Tufts, you can study STEM while you're abroad. All you have to do is just make sure that it aligns with your department. So you just ask your advisor in whatever department they're in, and they can cross-reference the courses for you and then let you know whether or not you can take them. And then for our engineering school, I know we have separate engineering studying abroad programs, a lot of which are in Australia, where you can go to Australia and continue to study engineering, and all of the courses that you take there will automatically transfer. You don't even have to talk to your professor about it because it's an engineering program. But it's definitely something that you can do, something I highly encourage. I'm personally very excited for my study abroad experience that I'm about to embark on. And yeah, it's just something that you, again, have to be proactive about, but definitely a possibility.
Thank you. And I think another question that we get quite a bit as admissions folks from high schoolers thinking about that transition, especially many young women that we talk to, is just that thinking about the academic rigor transition from the high school level to the college level. And all of you are in rigorous majors at rigorous colleges. So I'm curious, what was the experience transitioning from high school to a STEM program in college like for you? And do you have any stories or anecdotes or advice that you would share for the students we're talking to today? Yeah, Shirley.
I will say, in a sense, Wentworth is sort of similar to high school just because of the smaller class sizes. I will say one of my largest classes I had about 25 students in it. So you really get that one-on-one time with the professor here. But also, a piece of advice that I would give is to stay very organized. I personally have a planner or an agenda attached to my hip at all times. So I write down every single thing that I have to do. So I write in time to eat, time to sleep, when I have things such as panels and homework due and any exams that I have coming up. And I just find that that's the best way to keep myself on track.
Love a good planner. I am right there with you. And Olivia Joe, I saw your hand up too.
Yeah, so Olin's a pretty interesting college in that our first semester here at Olin is pass no record. And so part of that big transition to college, definitely want to second the organization. At Olin, all classes are project-based. We don't have exams, and that really puts a lot of stress on you your first year because you're not used to kind of project managing all of your time. You're used to doing that in between having a few exams. But when all of your time is just projects, it both gives you a lot of really awesome freedom to go and try new things and join new clubs and enjoy everything that college is. But also you need to keep yourself on track so you aren't doing that project the entirety of that last week. So, having a bit of leeway, a lot of, from even what I've heard from my friends at different colleges, there's a little bit more leeway your first semester as you do try to adjust to the new college environment, but big +1 on organizing and making sure you get everything squared away.
I'll just add that since I'm a second year, my first year was all pretty much online. I had hybrid classes mostly, but most of it was on Zoom. So I was in these big classes for most of my STEM classes. And once we moved to in-person this semester, it was a little tough just getting used to that because I didn't really have that slow transition into it. It was just kind of abrupt. And so I would suggest that I also use, like Shirley, a planner. So on Sundays, I'll write down all my assignments that I have during the week or different things or meetings and organization events that I have. And then for the assignments that are due coming up, I'll say that they're due a day earlier than they actually are, just so that I'm not totally overwhelmed when the day comes that they're all due. So I find that to be really helpful if that might help some of you.
Yes, that is helpful. Oluchi, yes.
One thing that I noticed in my transition to college was that in high school, I felt like my high school teachers were very adamant about like coming up to me like throughout my class and telling me how I'm doing and like whether or not I need help and things like that, versus college professors don't do that as much. And at first I used to think that like college professors just like didn't care as much, but I just find that like maybe like they have like a lot more going on. Like a lot of my professors also like run their own labs and things like that. So they're not going to be checking in with you at every single point. Like if you get a bad grade on a test, they're not going to come and talk to you after your class about it and stuff like that. However, like I remember being very intimidated, but going to office hours and seeing my professors one-on-one. But all your professors that you'll have in college, all they want to do is help you learn, but you do have to go to them. And I think that was something that was really hard for me in the beginning because I was really intimidated by my professors because they weren't like that in that aspect in comparison to my high school teachers. But then once I went to them and sat with them one-on-one, all they wanted to do in that hour was just help me understand this concept that I'd been struggling with. And so that was one thing that I had to learn. So definitely just go to your professors, even if they are, the dynamic between your professors and your high school teachers are going to be different, but still go to them because they are your teachers and they do want to help you learn.
They do. That is why they are teachers. Well, we'd like to think that, for the majority of them, hopefully. So we have a great question in the Q&A from Zoe that's specifically for engineering. So I'm looking at Shirley and Olivia Joe for this one. Okay, so just like preparing you to think as I read this question. So how did you ultimately decide on your major? Zoe thinks that she wants to go into engineering, but she doesn't know which area of engineering. So how does one figure that out? So whoever wants to start, Olivia Joe.
So I definitely came into Olin knowing I wanted engineering and didn't know which kind of engineering. I didn't actually decide on my exact major until last semester. So I was really debating between mechanical and robotics engineering. So one thing I did was planned out a little bit ahead on my course planner and picked some classes that would intro classes for both, but also would still keep me on track for graduating on time with both majors. I joined a couple project teams and clubs and research groups that would allow, like some were very strictly robotics, some were very strictly mechanical, and some were a little bit in between because I was deciding between mechanical, robotics, and mechatronics. At Olin, the robotics mechatronics major is actually part of the design your own curriculum. So I also took advantage of getting to design my curriculum and ended up picking a robotics major that leans a little heavier on the mechanical side because that's what I'm super interested in.
That just sounds cool. So many words. I'm like, oh, I don't know what all of those things mean, but it's great. Okay, Shirley, you are next.
All right, so here at Wentworth, we actually had to come in with a decided major. So I initially came in as biomed, and throughout our first semester, we take an intro to engineering course, which has 4 main engineering classes built into it: mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, biomedical engineering, and civil engineering. And I realized that I wanted to do more things with mechanical engineering rather than biomedical engineering. So I ended up changing my major, and it's okay to change your major. It's not really going to throw you off course, especially if it's within your first semester. And yeah, that's sort of how I chose.
Awesome. That is helpful. And I think that's something that a lot of people are also nervous about coming into engineering programs. It's like, what if I change my mind partway through, you know? And I think it's helpful to know you can change. That's okay. Figure things out as you're going. A question that we also have is, how are your relationships with your professors, and how have you been able to find mentorship and support, especially from women who are professors in your different departments? Who wants to kick us off? Julia, I see you, and then Bridget.
All right, so during my first year, I had mostly female professors in my computer science courses, which was pretty empowering to see. And so I think just developing relationships with them was pretty easy because I'd go to TA hours a lot, office hours, and just telling them, you know, if I'm struggling, just being honest because they're there, you know, to support you. And yeah, they were very, very empathetic to where I am. So if I was struggling, they said, okay, let's create a plan on how we can get you to where you want to be. And they just want to see you succeed. So I just think being honest with them and asking them questions, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that with any professor, like no matter the gender, if you're proactive and like say that you need help, they will go above and beyond to help you. Something that I really cherish about the WPI culture that we have is that we kind of have a women lift up women kind of thing going on here. So like if there's a lady professor and like you go into her office hours and like you're like, what is it like to be a woman in STEM? I've done that numerous times. They will tell you like their whole life story, like anecdotes of like overcoming troubles. So you get to know them on like not only a professor level, but a personal level, and like what their experience was being a woman in STEM, and having that personal relationship going into class next day is like more comforting, and you feel like definitely more confident in yourself that like your role models have like also gone through that.
Thank you both for sharing. I think it's very important, very helpful and insightful. Thank you. I have a question now that I would like to pose to all of you. So I'm going to go in the order that we went in the beginning. So Olivia Joe, Julia, Oluchi, Shirley, and Bridget. And hey, the reason's just you are women in STEM. You chose your schools. Why did each of you choose the school that you are at to attend? Okay, so mull on that. Olivia Joe, you are up first.
One of the big reasons I chose Olin was I was really a fan of the entirety project-based curriculum. I had done a little bit of it in high school, and I really thought that was the way I learned best. Olin is a really small school, and I really wanted that, and it does scare away a lot of people. We have about 90 kids per class year, so I know all of my classmates, they know me, and so I always have someone I can reach out to, as well as Olin is, one of the few engineering schools with a 50-50 gender ratio. So I really got to be in I really like learning around other women, and I didn't feel those singled out the same way I did back in high school.
Julia.
I chose Syracuse. Being from Los Angeles, I knew I wanted to go on the East Coast just to change it up and get that different experience. And so I applied to a 7 of the East Coast schools like Virginia Tech, George Mason, Maryland. And I eventually decided on Syracuse because for some reason there was always that gut feeling there. So I would say trust that gut feeling when you have it. But when I talked to the undergraduate recruiter, Jonathan, I believe he's on the call right now, I definitely got that vibe, that family vibe from the College of Engineering. That's something that I definitely looked for. I didn't want to be, just a little number within the School of Engineering there. And to this day, they offer so many different resources, and there's so many people that are willing to help you out and just care about your success. So I definitely felt that when I would, go to the different Zooms that they offered for high school students and such. And and the campus itself is so beautiful. It's right behind me, if you can see. And so that was also a very attractive piece that got me to choose Syracuse in the end.
Really, a follow-up question for you before I go to Oluchi. How is the transition from California to upstate New York?
At first, I was like very scared for the winter, but I got a good coat, good boot. I don't even think I used my boots, to be honest. But I survived. So I'm gonna do it again my second winter, and it's actually not that bad. So yeah, pretty good.
Okay, second follow-up question. Are there any good sledding hills at Syracuse? Very important question.
Yes, so everyone goes sledding. In fact, I remember hearing stories about them using the dining hall trays to go sledding down these hills, but we have, it's not in the picture right here, but Krause Hall, and it's on this big hill, and everyone goes sliding down them. But yeah, they use the dining hall trays, which is pretty fun.
Okay, yes, we used to do that too. Fun fact, Aluchi, Tufts does not have dining hall trays anymore, so alas, cannot do that. Aluchi, okay, that was a sidetrack. I love it. You are next.
Yeah, I decided on Tufts it was kind of a weird coming story, but my junior year of high school, I went to boarding school, so my roommate and her mom came up one weekend and we went to a bunch of the Boston schools. Didn't really go in with any idea of like liking anything or just seeing to see. And I remember going to Tufts and absolutely loving it and loving all the buildings and everything it had to offer. And so I knew Tufts was going to be high on my list. But then one time, my senior year, we had a speaker come to my school, and she was just everything I wanted to be. She was a cancer researcher. She had some breakthrough studies, and she was receiving an award from my school because of her research. And she talked about how her time during my high school and at Tufts, where she went to undergrad, were very formative experiences for her. And I got a chance to speak to her afterwards, and we talked about my interests, and she told me that she thought that Tufts would be a great place for me. And then also in high school, as I mentioned before, I took organic chemistry. And my teacher of that class, I would meet with him outside of class to talk about chemistry pretty often. And he talked about how his experience at undergrad at Tufts was also a very formative experience for him. So there was just like a lot of things in my life pointing towards Tufts, and on top of the fact that I absolutely loved it. And that's why I chose to go there.
And Shirley.
Yeah, so I, to being completely honest, didn't know a single thing about Wentworth. I didn't know that Wentworth was a school until maybe the time to start applying to colleges during my senior year of high school or junior year of high school. And when my guidance counselor pointed out to me, because her son had went here, so I looked into it and I realized that it was the place that I really wanted to be, the place that I needed to be. I really loved it because of the co-op program. It gave me all of the experience that I needed before graduating and getting out into the quote unquote real world. And it was just such a perfect school, and I love it so much.
Hooray, thank you. And Bridget.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to study life science, but WPI by no means is known for a huge life science department. We have about 40 students in life science, I would say, per class year. But the faculty within life science, even on my tours, I got to meet with them, and I really resonated with their values and how they ran their program there, and also being able to collaborate with other majors constantly, whether it be computer science or engineering. That was a huge factor in that for me. The fact that projects are built into your curriculum at WPI, whether that be your study abroad experience or your senior capstone experience, that just builds your future for you without having to go out and really try and make it work. WPI makes it work for you. Similar to Olivia Joe, the 50-50 ratio. I love being surrounded by other women in STEM. And we all love academics, but we also know how to have a really good time. Everyone's involved in a bunch of stuff, and that's like such an important part of your formative like college experience as well.
And I think that's a really lovely dovetail into the next question, which is thinking about student organizations like outside of the classroom, specifically any that are focused around women, the empowerment of women. Maybe some of them relate to STEM, maybe some of them don't. I know that in your introductions, a few of you were mentioning some that you're involved in right now. So I was wondering if anyone would like to expand or add something new about organizations that focus on women. Yeah, surely.
Yeah, so I personally really like the Society of Women Engineers club here on campus. Since we do have a smaller female to male ratio here, it's just really nice to see that giant group of women come together at the end of the day and be like, hey, we did this. We are women in STEM and we're doing amazing and it's great.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, Julia.
Yeah, with Shirley, I feel like we have a lot of similar organizations as well, because we have the Society of Women Engineers at Syracuse. And yeah, it's just a place where it's not only like professional development and kind of empowering women within the STEM field, but it's also those like social events that allow you to connect to either alumni within STEM from your school or professionals out in the field locally. I know we have an event for the Society of Women Engineers coming up where it's pumpkin picking. And we're meeting with just local STEM professionals who are female in our area. And it's just a great way to network and connect.
Yes, fun free events. That is every college student's dream. That was mine. Bonus points if there was food there, you know, delicious. And like shout out, because I feel like Wentworth is like very close to many good restaurants like in Boston proper. Oof, so many good things. Okay, sorry, I'm scrolling through the questions, feeling like, what else should we talk about? I think this is something that some of you have already touched on, but just talking more about any interdisciplinary programs or classes that you have taken. So thinking, yes, like you are all awesome women involved in very rigorous STEM majors and classes, but are there any additional areas that you have been able to explore academically while in college? Yeah, Olivia Joe.
So at Olin, we actually are required to pretty much take one non-STEM course every semester in our time here. And as part of our graduation requirements, we actually need to have a concentration within those. So a couple of classes that kind of act as some sort of non-STEM minor. So I'm doing environmental studies with mine. I have a couple of friends doing music or languages, but at least like at Olin, it's really built in creating, well-rounded engineers. We need to know more than just STEM.
And Shirley, I saw your hand too.
Yeah, my major's official title is interdisciplinary engineering. So I guess I have the best of that. I get to study mechanical engineering, but alongside with picking a minor. And I actually picked 2 minors just because I really like spreading my horizons. And here at Wentworth, we're also, I don't want to say required because it sounds like a really bad word, but we have to take humanities courses, and it's just so we don't become robots. And I've taken a few really good psychology courses here.
What are your 2 minors, Shirley?
I'm minoring in manufacturing engineering and physics.
Cool, thank you. And Bridget, I saw your hand too.
Yeah, so similar to Olivia Joe, at WPI, we also have a humanities and arts requirement where you take a couple of courses concentrating on what you want, but then we also build in project-based learning to that as well. So within your concentration, you do have like a capstone course where you kind of can freeball any project you want. So I did a really long writing piece, but that is probably some people's worst nightmares. So a lot of people choose to compose music pieces or even do lights for like one of the plays or produce a big like art piece or have like a mini art show with their friends. So they kind of let you get creative with it and pretty much do whatever you're passionate about to fulfill like that project requirement.
And I think that we have time just for a couple more questions. So the first one, of the two to wrap us up. It is for all of you. So I'm gonna go in backwards order. We're gonna start with Bridget and then we're gonna go to Olivia Joe, like all the way back. I know, gasp, whole new world. The question, hopefully a fun one. What is your favorite tradition of your college? So Bridget, you get to go first.
Okay, I don't even have to think about this one. It makes me cry every single year when I see it. So when you get to WPI, we actually have this right behind me. It's why it's my background. We have Earl Bridge. It's my favorite spot on campus. Your second day of new student orientation, all 1,000 of you and your other peers in your class walk across Earl Bridge in one direction, and you wear like a little ugly WPI beanie, and you get a little tech guidebook, and the professors line either side of the bridge and they high five you and hype you up as your entire class crosses, and then you have an ice cream party afterwards. So they're basically hyping you up for the next 4 years, saying like, welcome, you got it. And then when you graduate, you actually come across the bridge in the other direction in your full cap and gown towards the quad where we have commencement, and professors are on either side of the bridge still, and they're high-fiving you, like congratulating you. So it's like a big full circle thing you get to do with all your peers. And I kid you not, I cry every time I watch people do it.
That sounds awesome. Thank you. Shirley, what's yours?
I sort of have two. During the summer semesters, we have summer semesters here at Wentworth. We have campus barbecues every week. So, and they're completely free. So it's extra yummy food. And the president typically hosts it, or is hosted by our catering company. And it's just a barbecue where everyone that's in classes comes out to the quad and we all just sort of hang out. But another sort of tradition that I really like is Fenway Park is down the street. We get really cheap tickets. So a lot of students are always going to Fenway Park. You'll always find a bunch of friends there, and it's just a really good time.
Awesome. Yes, I second. Go to Fenway. Very cheap tickets. Oluchi.
Yeah, I think my favorite tradition at Taos would be probably painting the cannon. Right next to our chapel on top of the really large hill on campus, there's a cannon that's there. And the tradition started was that a girl was protesting the Vietnamese War, and she painted the cannon white, and someone painted over it, and then she painted over it white, and then she stood there all night to watch it so that nobody would paint over it. So now a bunch of us, like all Tufts students, for clubs, for special days or anything like that, will paint over the cannon, and you'll just stay there with your friends. People don't typically stay all night, but you definitely can if you want to. And it's just a really fun time. You can do it with your friends. I've done it with a bunch of clubs. I've done it with a bunch of different like friend groups and stuff. And it's always really fun to just paint the cannon together, make some artistic expression, and then just stay there and hang out with your friends all night.
Fun. I've only done it twice, but yes, so fun. Julia.
Last year, since I was online most of the time, I didn't get to really participate in Syracuse's in-person traditions. However, now that we're back and everything, one thing that I'm not sure if it counts as a tradition, but we have this cross hall where they have chimes. So whenever there's any special celebration or anything on campus, they'll do the chimes, and you can hear it all along campus. Like, I'm pretty far, I'm on the hill away from Maine, so I can hear it like at nighttime. Sometimes with our football games now in session, whenever we win, it always goes off, and it just gets everyone, pretty happy and excited about the win, and just special occasions like that. So
Thank you. And Olivia Joe.
My favorite tradition here at Olin would probably be Hopper Night. So for one of the first year design courses called Design Nature, they have 7 weeks to go through a whole design process to make a animal inspired thing that jumps. So the night before it's all due, oftentimes a lot of the first year students are freaking out and they're up late working. So all the upperclassmen come out in droves. They bring cinnamon rolls. They sing barbershop quartets to you as you sit like work, and everyone just like provides assistance and snacks and moral support as they work on their first midterm project, pretty much.
Thank you all so much for sharing. And for our last question, I'm just going to go in that same order, starting with Bridget. What is one piece of advice that you have for the students joining us tonight? when it comes to just thinking about the college search process and the application of college process. So I'm going to start with Bridget. I'm also going to put on the screen each school's contact info. So if any students here, not here because you all go to college, but in the audience have questions, you will have that info. So Bridget, you're first.
Yeah, sure. My biggest piece of advice would be ask questions. Working as a student in the admissions office, we love when students email us and say, hey, like, can you put us in touch with someone in this department or this department, whether it be student or faculty? Schools are more than willing to do that for you. And it actually gives you a leg up because you can go into your application process and say, hey, I talked to this person, I talked to this person. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't feel like you're being annoying. Just email if you truly are interested, and it will all fall into line.
Agreed. That is why admissions people are here. Shirley, you're next.
I'd have to say that my biggest piece of advice is don't settle. If you're not happy, then you're not happy, and you don't want to be unhappy in your career field when you're old and like working on something that you don't really want to work on. You want to be happy, and I just want you to be happy. So don't settle for anything less.
I very much second that. Aluchi.
Yeah, I also really second that. But on a very similar note, I would say it's important to be able to visualize yourself at the school that you're going to. So when you visit, make sure you can put yourself and envision yourself at that school and think to yourself, would I be happy here? Do I like the life that I see for myself if I went to this institution? That was something that really helped me decide where I was going to school and where I genuinely really wanted to go, or where like, oh, it looks good, but I don't know if that's personally for me. Try to picture yourself at these schools doing these things so that you know.
Julia.
Not only talking to admissions, but also reaching out to students that go there currently is really important, because you get that, real perspective. Admissions could tell you one thing, but then you get the student perspective. And I think that's really important, especially when picking a school that's right for you. And then also just listening to that gut feeling, that's very important. And I believe Shirley said, don't settle, and just go where, your heart takes you.
Yeah, and lastly, Olivia Joe.
I'm going to quickly echo a lot of the things everyone has said before me. It's really, really important to make sure you can see yourself at the school you're going to. And the way to figure that out is to ask other students. And at the end of the day, wherever you do go, it just depends on how hard you motivate yourself. You can make wherever you end up a wonderful space for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing, and thank you, audience, for joining us tonight, talking about all things STEM, all things college, with our 5 incredible women in incredible programs at incredible schools. So thank you all so much, and to our attendees, best of luck in your college search. We wish you all the best.
All right. Thank you everyone so much for joining. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 5-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. We encourage you to check back on the schedule and sign up for more sessions. And you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all other session recordings at strivescan.com/CACHET. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your evening.